What's the real difference between people? Is it just about who has more money or a better job title, or is there something way deeper going on? Today, we're going to break down this really cool framework from an author named Xu Feng. It's basically a map of 5 different levels of being human, and honestly, it might just change how you see yourself and pretty much everyone else. So, think about someone you really look up to. What is it about them that's so impressive? Is it their fancy car or their corner office? This framework we're looking at says, nope, we're focused on all the wrong things. What if the biggest differences between us are the things you can't see? The stuff happening inside our heads and our hearts. And this quote, this is the core of the whole idea. Xu Feng is basically arguing that we've been using a broken ruler to measure human worth. It's not about what you have, it's about who you are on the inside. And based on this simple idea, he came up with a fascinating and maybe even a little controversial way to classify all of humanity. So, how does this whole map actually work? Well, Xu Feng splits everyone into 5 basic profiles. I want you to think of it like finding your own coordinates on a map of human consciousness. So let's dive in and see if you recognize yourself, or maybe people you know, as we go through each one. Okay, so starting at the very bottom of the ladder, we've got what the author calls the muddled person. This is a life that's lived almost completely on autopilot. It's all just raw instinct and pure reaction. So what does it actually feel like to be at this level? Well, it's pretty much a whirlwind of chaos. This person is just a pinball, bouncing from one impulse to the next, lashing out in anger one minute, making a crazy decision the next. And when things go south, which they always do, it's never their fault. There's really no captain of this ship. It's just drifting in a storm. All right, moving up a level, we meet the worldly person. The engine here isn't just blind instinct anymore. It's a very conscious, very relentless desire for stuff on the outside, for validation. At this level, life is all about me, me, me. For the worldly person, every decision, every single relationship is just a calculation. What do I get out of this? The only things that matter are money, fame, and power. And yeah, they're more than willing to bend or completely break any rule to get them. Now, climbing one more rung, we get to the ordinary person. The driving force here is way more complex. It's about emotion, it's about connection, and our roles in society. And this is where things get really interesting, because a lot of us might see a bit of ourselves right here. The key thing to understand here is the inner conflict. The ordinary person genuinely cares about their family, their community, their country, but they're constantly torn between the world they want and the world as it is. They feel helpless, like that boat in a storm again, which is why the author says this is the most inwardly pained group of all. Okay, so after all that struggle, we finally reach the wise person. This is someone who's really starting to master their own inner world. Their life isn't guided by impulse or desire or messy emotions anymore. It's guided by reason. What you're seeing here is someone who's really gotten a handle on themselves. They've officially stepped off the hamster wheel of chasing fame and fortune. Their goals are so much deeper now. Things like health, freedom, inner peace. They are the masters of their own destiny, even though, they're still living here in the real world with the rest of us.
And here we are, at the very top of the map, the highest level in this framework. Xu Feng calls this the transcendent person, or sometimes the immortal. This is a life that's lived completely and totally through spirit.
This person has gone beyond just reason. It's like they can see the code behind the matrix. They get the deep truths of how things work. They're totally free from all that worldly stuff, and they see life itself as this joyful, playful game. They usually live pretty simply, in tune with nature, and they value quiet solitude and a few really deep connections over all the noise of the world. So, there you have it, the ladder of being. It's this whole journey from pure instinct all the way up to spirit. And it's a pretty hopeful map of what we could all become, right? But let's be real, it is not an easy climb. So what are the traps? What are the pitfalls that keep us stuck on those lower rungs? And that brings us to the second half of this whole idea. The framework doesn't just give you the map. It also points out all the potholes and roadblocks, the things that cause us pain and keep us from climbing any higher.
In his writing, Xu Feng lays out what he calls the 18 abysses of suffering. Just think of them as the fundamental traps, the root causes that lead to a life of misery and keep us from ever reaching our true potential.
Now, I know 18 is a lot to take in all at once, so to make it a little easier to digest, we can actually sort them into 3 main buckets, 3 basic categories of struggle.
So this first category is all about the messed up stories we tell ourselves inside our own heads. Flawed mindsets. This is that constant comparison game we play on social media, the habit of blaming everyone else for our problems, or that nagging feeling that you have to win every single argument. These are basically the mental prisons we build for ourselves.
The second group, destructive desires, well, this is the engine that keeps that hamster wheel spinning. It's that endless, exhausting chase for more money, more likes, more attention. It's that gnawing jealousy when you see what someone else has. And this framework argues that this is a race with no finish line. It's just a guaranteed path to being miserable.
And the last category, and maybe the toughest one to face, is false attachments. This is when the good things in our lives, our connections to people and ideas, become chains that hold us down. It's when you think you can't be happy without a certain person, or when your entire identity gets so wrapped up in your job or your family that it suffocates you instead of setting you free.
Okay, so let's put it all together now. We've got the 5 types of people on one side and all these pits of suffering on the other. How do they connect? How do we use them to actually map a path away from suffering and toward freedom?
This right here, this basically shows us the fundamental choice we're all facing. The path on the left, the path of suffering. That's kind of the default setting for most of us. It's a life run by raw instinct, endless desire, and crazy emotions. The path on the right, the path of freedom, that's a conscious choice. That's a journey you decide to take, one guided by clear reason and a connection to something way bigger than yourself.
And look, the whole point of this isn't to put people into boxes or to judge anyone. Absolutely not. The real goal is to give you a tool for self-awareness. It's a map. By understanding it, you can get a better sense of where you are right now, and maybe more importantly, you can see where you want to go.
In the end, this is just one map, right? It's one person's perspective on the human soul. But it's a powerful one, because it really forces you to look inward. So the final question isn't really about this philosophy. It's about you. Where on this map do you see yourself right now? And maybe the most important question of all is, where do you want to go next?